Everyone thinks the housing market's driven by interest rates and prices, but there's something deeper going on. Something's quietly impacting who buys, when they buy, and why they even buy in the first place. So if you felt like homeownership doesn't fit your timeline anymore, well, this might explain why. I've been in the mortgage business for 20 years, and I talk to buyers every single day. A lot of them are saying the same thing right now. I thought I'd be further along by now in life. And I don't think it's just about money. I think it's about something bigger. I think there's a shift happening that changes what homeownership looks like. And once you see it, you'll stop blaming yourself and you'll start understanding the system that you're navigating. So here's what you're gonna learn in this video. How and why life events that are happening later are impacting the market, what today's typical homebuyer looks like and how that's changed over the years, what builders, agents, and investors are doing right now to win, why a forever home might not be the goal for many people anymore, and what this all means for your next move, whether you're buying, renting, or investing. Let's start out with why life milestones are happening later in life. Statistics show that people are getting married at a later age, thus having a kid and starting families at a later age, and a lot of people are having fewer kids these days. A lot of folks are going back to school, so they're advancing their education. As a result, there's a longer period of career exploration, finding the right place in the workforce. And all this impacts people's cost of living, i.e. how much money you make versus what it costs to buy and live in a home. And by the way, this isn't new. This has all been building up for decades and decades. So the impact here, historically, is that marriage, kids, family, all impact when many people buy a home. But now, those major milestones and these life stages, they're delayed. The median age of a first-time home buyer right now is 38. In 1991, it was 28. That's a big change. And that age shift, it isn't just a reaction to the affordability issues right now. I think it's part of a deeper cultural trend that's changing how homes are bought and sold. For example, the average household size right now is shrinking. Smaller homes are popular. There's fewer multi-kid families, way more 1 and 2 people households, and there's a lot more adults that are just living alone, content. Sometimes being alone is great. This is a demographic shift, not just an economic shift. So why does this all matter? Well, smaller households equal more demand for smaller homes, smaller apartments, less demand for bigger homes. Lifestyle shift is taking priority over space and room for growth. And as a result, there's fewer buyers purchasing for the family they don't have yet, because maybe that's not in their plans anymore. Or if it is, it's way, way down the road. So how are agents, builders, and investors adjusting to these market trends? Well, you got to stop waiting for that 1990s 28-year-old first-time home buyer to come back. They ain't here anymore. Early 20s buyers with big families, that's not the norm. Buyers in their 30s and 40s are planning more. They're more thoughtful, thinking a little bit more deliberately. As a result, those builders and realtors and investors, they need to target a different demographic, the affluent 30 and 40-something-year-olds. This group now makes up a massive chunk of our first-time homebuyer demographic. And many of these folks will also be repeat buyers because their families are growing, so we need to understand their needs, their wants, and what their expectations are when it comes to homeownership. And you got to still serve the delayed buyer who's renting now, but will eventually be in the market. Build-to-rent communities really cater to this gap in the market. You know, like those single-family rentals without the stress of homeownership and the upkeep. People in their late 20s and early 30s, they still want space, they want community, they just don't want that long-term financial commitment. And big builders and investors understand that. But the shift we're seeing, it's not just about builders and investors and how to make money right now. The shift is reshaping what buyers prioritize and when they enter the market. This whole forever home concept, white picket fence, raise your family, like that's kind of dying. Flexibility is becoming much more important and a priority over permanence. More and more buyers view their first home as a 5-year stepping stone, not a permanent place they're going to be forever. And many Gen Z and Millennial buyers plan on being out of there before 5 years. Buyers want options. They change jobs. They might want to relocate. They want a short-term rental or long-term rental of their property. Flexibility is important. Convenience, customization, and affordability are now higher priorities than square footage and status. And as a result, some of these folks are just going to delay homeownership altogether. And that's okay. So what does this all mean for you, whether you're buying soon or trying to time the market in the next year or two? Well, for home buyers in the market right now, just know that it's okay to buy later in life compared to when your parents did. And you don't need to live on other people's timelines. Don't rush the decision. Plan your purchase around your priorities, your budget, your goals, not just the economics and mortgage rates. Now, for renters in their 20s or even in your 30s, consider these build-to-rent communities or even those with a flexible lease option, just so you have that ability to navigate where you need to be. And in the meantime, focus on your budget, your savings, your credit, and your employment stability. Those should take priority before you buy a home. That way, when the time is right, you'll be more planned and more prepared to make a smart decision. You see, delaying marriage or kids doesn't mean you're falling behind when it comes to where you should be in life. There's no rule book, by the way. It just means that you're part of a generation that's redefining the homeownership trends of the past. Now, if you want help planning your next move, putting a strategy in place, understanding how to budget and prepare, that's what I do. I've helped over 5,000 homebuyers make smart decisions, and I will gladly help you do the same thing. Reach out if you have any questions.